In this tutorial, I'm going to demonstrate how to add Windows XP to the workgroup, because XP is a little different from Windows 7 and Vista, because those two actually add the computer to a workgroup by default once you're on a home or private network. And Windows XP actually have to do a little different process to add the computer to the workgroup. We're going to go on Start, My Network Places, right? Click Home or Small Office Network. Click Next, Next, and you want to click this selection here. And the computer gets its internet through a router or another computer. And here we give the computer a name. I'm going to name it WinXP. Click Next. And we're going to give the workgroup a name. Now you got to make sure you use the same workgroup name as the other computers, and the default for the others is workgroup, so we're going to name that workgroup. Click Next. And this prompt here asks you if you want to run the setup on another computer. You don't really need, so you don't want to do that, so you're just going to click Finish. Click Next, and then click Finish. And when we go on View Network Computers, you see all the other computers on the workgroup. Okay, and now we're going to configure the Active Directory on Windows Server 2008. Alright, so now here I'm just going to show you that the workgroup, refresh this. Alright, so these are the computers on the workgroup. Alright, before we do the Active Directory, we're going to enable this remote desktop. This is to allow connections for computers to communicate through the firewall to the server. So you just click Allow connections from the computers running on the remote desktop with network level authentication. That is so that only computers that are authenticated from the server will be able to communicate to it. So we close this off here. Now we're going to configure the Active Directory. You go to Server Manager, right, you come down on Rules, so we're going to add rules. Okay, Server Rules, click Active Directory. Right, so the purpose of Active Directory, well, they give you a brief description here. This is to allow the computers on the network to communicate with the server and gain access to resources that the server has, like printers, files, and to communicate with other computers over the network. Alright, so you click next again. They give you a little notes here. Next. Alright, so this is another note here. They're telling you after you install the Active Directory, we need to run DC promo to make the server fully functional as a domain controller. Alright, so you click install and installation begins. Okay, so the installation has succeeded. Alright, so they give you a warning here. Well, this is just for the automatic updates, so I'm not going to study that. Alright, so here we gotta click this to close the window and launch the Active Directory domain services. That's the DC promo. Alright, so here I'm gonna click Advanced Mode Installation, click Next. So we gotta create a new domain in a new forest. So we select that. Okay, here, and this is important, we're gonna name the domain. So I can name this as domain test. I'm gonna put it .com. Alright. Click next. And this is just a check to see if the name already exists. Alright, so the NetBIOS name will be DOM test. Click next. Now this part here is important because this is the functional level of the forest. Right now with this, you select this. Well, they give you 3 options here from Windows 2000, 2003 and 2008. Now the importance of this is that according to the level you select will be how the computers will communicate over the domain. Now if we select server 2003, only systems running 2003 and above will be able to communicate over the forest. Right? Anything below, like if we select 2003 and there's a computer in your forest with 2002, it won't be able to communicate. Right? Well, I'm going to pick 2003 for this one. So click next. Okay. So now we gotta select the DNS server. Click continue. And this is all the system folders for the forest. Right? Usually, like people who create networks, they have all these files on separate machines. Next, now we gotta create a password for the administrator account for the domain. Click next. There's a quick rundown of what you selected, the options. Right. Click next here. Okay, so the installation has finished and we gotta restart the computer. Okay, so now we're gonna log into the domain with the password we created. Okay, so the computer has restarted. Now we can go to see the domain. This is it here. DOM test, as you can see. And these are all the folders for the domain. Well, no computers have been added to the domain as yet, so we won't see none here. This is the users folder. And this is where we can go here to add a new user. So right click, new user. Now we can create a default profile that we can use to copy the settings of the profile for other users. So I'm gonna name it John 2. Initials JD. Right. Logon name. We call him John B. Right, and this is the domain here at dumbtest.com. Right, and well, this part here is for pre-Windows 2000. Now you gotta create a password for Mr. John B. Okay. Now these options here we can select and deselect the ones we don't want. We don't want the user to change the password at next logon. And we do want it that they cannot change their password and the password never expires. This option here is also if you want to disable the account, so that account will no longer, the person will no longer be able to log on to the domain using that account. Right, we click next. Okay, the options that is selected here, finish. Right, and this is John Doe that we now created. Now we can copy this and create a new profile. Copy. Right, now you copy in the settings. And we're gonna name this one Jane Doe. We ain't gonna give her no initials though. Jane D. Right, next. See, oh, forgot the password. You see the settings that we selected stayed. Right. Finish. Right. Go into the properties. Now here's where you can add a little extra information about the user, like the web page, number, email, all that nice stuff. So come on to here, accounts. This is that, you know, you can change the logon name. You can give them logon hours. Alright, for the default it's set to any time, any day, but for here you could, you know, like select a piece like this. And when you click log on denied, for these hours here from 12 midnight to about 11 AM, they won't be able to log on. Okay, so we're gonna leave it as default for now. Right, and well, here's where we can change and set the date for the account to expire or whatever. We don't want to do that. So now we gotta add the other computers to the domain. Alright, so we're gonna pause on this for a while. We're gonna open up XP. Gotta add XP to the domain. Alright. Come on computer. Right click. Alright, we come across the computer name on the system properties and we're gonna click change. Alright, so this is it here. Member of, well, it's on the work group. Now we're gonna select domain and type in the name of our domain, which was dumbtest.com. Click OK. Then we gotta put in the password and the user account to give it permission to join the domain. Right, so we're gonna give him John D, which was the user we created. Click OK. We wait for that to happen. Alright, so there we see it. Welcome to domtest.com domain. Computer is now part of the domain. Now it must restart for the changes to take effect. Alright, so we're going to restart now. Yes. Okay, so we're going to log back in. We don't want to log back into the normal windows. We want to log back into the domain. So we're going to put in the username on the domain and the password. Click OK. Alright, so there we see it. We see the user account came up, John Doe, with the initials. That was the user we created on the server. Alright, so we have now successfully logged into the domain. And we're going to go back to the server. I want to check the computers tab. Alright, and when we refresh, we see that Windows XP computer has now been successfully added to the domain. Cool. Now we're going to pause the video and add Vista and Windows 7 to the domain. And you're going to see that when I resume. Okay, so we just added Vista to the domain. You can come on computers, we see it here. Okay, so we're going to create a roaming profile. So we go into my computer on the server, the local disk. We create a profile, a folder called profiles, an empty folder. Right click and we go to properties, sharing, click share, select everyone, click add. I want to give it co-owner, status, and click share. Okay, so the folder is now shared. Close off this. Now we gotta go into network. Go on the server. There's a profile folder here. And you can open it to get the network path. You wanna copy this. Close this off. Come back to our Active Directory. Go to users. Use Jane Doe properties. Go on profile. And here we paste the part of the profile. Then we're gonna add a backslash. And we're gonna put percent username. Click OK. I can do the same for Mr. John Doe. Profile. So what we gotta do now is log on to one of the other machines. We're gonna log on to XP. I'm gonna log in as Jane Doe into the domain. Like this. So what I wanna do, I'll create a text document here on the desktop. Open it up. I'm just going to give it some text here, roaming test. Save that. Close. This is Jane Doe. So we're going to log off. Okay, so we logged into Windows Vista as Jane Doe here. And as you can see, the text document is here. Just want to open that up. And there we see the text, roaming test. And that's how you create the roaming profile. Okay, so we want to do the home folder now. So we go to start, computer, go into the hard disk, we're doing the same thing like we did with the roaming profile. We click new folder. I'm gonna name it home folder. And we have to share it. So we go to the properties, sharing, click share, everyone. Done. Now we're going to copy the network part of this folder from right here. Close off this. Now we go to Start, Administrative Tools, head over to Active Directory Users and Computers. And we're looking at the users that we created. I'm going to right click and go to Properties. And head back over to the Profile tab. Now the home folder can be stored locally on the machine, or it can be a centralized folder on your server, which is what we want to do. So we come down here to connect. We gotta choose a drive letter. And here I'm gonna paste the network part of the folder. I'm gonna add in the \% username \variable. This saves typo errors and stuff because it actually pulls the username from the profile itself, so it automatically changes. And we click OK. We're gonna do the same for the other user. Connect. Pick a drive letter. Paste. % username %. Click apply. See a change. And say OK. Alright. Now if we head back over to the folder and we open it, we'll see the two folders for the profiles we just created. Now we head over to our client machine to log in. Okay, we're gonna log in. So we're going over to my computer. And here we see the home folder. This is the drive we just created. Open the server. You see the drive letter here and the network part of the folder. And the home folder drive operates like a normal drive to the user because they can add files. But according to the permissions you give them, I give them co-owner status, so they will be able to read and write the files. But it operates like a normal folder. So we're going to go into it here. And we're going to add a file or two, a folder. With mine. Add a text document. Call it home test. Right. And now if we go over to the server, and we go back to the home folder, and we go to the profile we just created, we'll see the two files we just created right here in the home folder. So the user will be able to access the files centrally from a drive, and the administrator could also be able to monitor the files on the drive. And that's how you create the home folder.